Our call to worship this morning is by the Reverend Carter Haywood, and he writes this: "Love, like truth and beauty, is concrete. Love is not fundamentally a sweet feeling, not at heart a matter of sentiment, attachment, or being drawn toward. Love is active, a matter of making reciprocal and mutually beneficial relation with one's friends and family. Love creates righteousness or justice here on earth. To make love is to make justice. As advocates and activists for justice know, loving involves struggle, resistance, and risk. People working today on behalf of women, Blacks, lesbian and gay men, the aging, the poor in the country and elsewhere know that making justice is not a warm, fuzzy experience. I think also that lovers and good friends know that the most compelling relationships demand hard work, patience, and a willingness to endure tensions and anxiety in creating mutually empowering bonds. For this reason, loving involves commitment. Love is a choice, not simply or necessarily a rational choice, but rather a willingness to be present to others without pretense or guile. Love is a conversion to humanity, a willingness to participate with others in the healing of a broken world and broken lives. Love is the choice to experience life as a member of the human family, a partner in the dance of life, rather than as an alien in the world or as a deity above the world, aloof and apart from human flesh. Come, let us worship together this morning. Our meditation this morning is written by the Reverend Lindy Ramsden. And although Jesus supposedly had his 8 Beatitudes, Lindy gives us many more than 8. These are called the Beatitudes for Justice Builders. So I invite you to settle in and feel these blessings washing over you this morning. Blessed are you who can question your own assumptions and listen with an open mind. You will receive new insights beyond your imagining. Blessed are you who suffer the attacks of others to stand up for what is right. You will not be alone, for your courage will inspire others to rise.
Blessed are you who build friendships as well as justice. Even when you lose an issue, you will have strengthened the foundation of your community. Blessed are you who take delight in people. You will not be bored at meetings.
Blessed are you who agitate the placid waters of complacency. You will create waves in the inertia of privilege and will know the thrill of riding the surf of change. Blessed are you who lead with enthusiasm and confidence, resisting the temptation to shame the apathetic or self-absorbed. You will inspire curiosity and hope in others.
Blessed are you who play as well as work. You will have more fun, build more energy, and will draw the powers of the impish to your cause. Blessed are you who ask for help in your role as leaders. You will find teachers at every turn, and your work will remain interesting and alive.
Blessed are you when wrongfully attacked. Find safe outlets for your righteous rage. Blessed are you who do not demonize your opponents. Your eyes and your hearts will be open.
Blessed are you who study the rhythm and rhymes of history. You will have knowledge in which to shape the future. Blessed are you who work in coalition rather than in principled isolation. You will meet great people, learn things you didn't realize you needed to know, and have partners for the journey when you are in the lead or in need.
Blessed are you who discover, train, and encourage younger leaders. You will see your work expand and grow beyond your own time and talent. Blessed are you who will not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You will see progress in your own lifetime.
Blessed are you with an active spiritual life. You will find perspective and comfort in times of loss and betrayal, and will rise without cynicism to meet the challenges of a new day. Blessed are you who live from a place of gratitude, for you will know the meaning of life.
50 years ago, this May, at our Unitarian Universalist General Assembly, the annual meeting of our denomination, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke as the Ware Lecturer, the most honored lecture event of the whole 5-day gathering. And he titled his speech, "Don't Sleep Through the Revolution." Hear the words of Martin Luther King Jr. echoing down 50 years of history. One of the great misfortunes of history is that all too many individuals and institutions find themselves in a great period of change and yet fail to achieve the new attitudes and outlooks that the new situation demands. There is nothing more tragic than to sleep through a revolution, and there can be no gainsaying of the fact that a social revolution is taking place in our world today. Victor Hugo once said that there is nothing more powerful in all the world than an idea whose time has come. The idea whose time has come today is the idea of freedom and human dignity. And so all over the world, we see something of a freedom explosion. And this reveals to us that we are in the midst of revolutionary times. An older order is passing away, and a new order is coming into being. For me, hearing those words after 50 years, the feeling is bittersweet. Yes, we have walked farther down the road to freedom for all in some ways. Many people in this room have been part of the struggle through the years. But sadly, no, tragically, we have so much farther to walk. King urges us, don't sleep through the revolution. We are now, again, in a time of action. A time when people are in the streets demanding change through the Black Lives Matter movements. Last Wednesday evening, there were around 20 of us gathered here to talk about where we are today individually, as a congregation, and as a society in relation to this issue of racism. In the past year, we have walked and we have talked, and we have added our voices to the demand for change. And we are grateful to Jan Ross for her vision and her leadership as chair of our social justice ministry team. But as we remember Martin Luther King Jr., especially on this weekend, I'd like to say a few words in particular about just one small piece of this very large issue. And I will preface this by saying that I ask for you to listen this morning with an open mind and an open heart as I present a totally different way of looking at the issue of a color-blind society. In 1963, in the March on Washington, King spoke these words, I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. In this, King was arguing for a chance at equality. I grew up, perhaps as many of you also did, hearing those words as gospel. That human yearning to be free, to be equal, for all to be on that level playing field. I grew up with a dream of one day reaching a colorblind society that would fulfill King's dream as I understood it. Yet today, a new generation of social activists and thinkers are sounding a call to the dangers of color blindness on a societal level. In her book, The New Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander argues that far from being a worthy goal, color blindness has proved catastrophic for African Americans, and that the systematic mass incarceration of people of color in the U.S. would not have been possible in the post-civil rights era if the nation had not fallen under the spell of callous color blindness. The seemingly innocent phrase, "I don't care if he or she is black," perfectly captures this twisting of Martin Luther King's dream that we may one day be able to see beyond race, to connect spiritually across racial lines. She goes on to say that our blindness prevents us from seeing the racial and structural divisions that persist in society, the segregated, unequal schools, the segregated, jobless ghettos, the segregated public discourse, making us blind not so much to race, but to the existence of racial caste in America. In his book, Strength to Love, King himself warned about this danger. He insisted that blindness and indifference to racial groups is actually more important than racial hostility to the creation and maintenance of racialized systems of control. Instead of the color blindness that many of us have been taught is the goal, Alexander encourages us instead to embrace a permanent condition and a commitment to color consciousness. She explains it this way: this shift invites a more optimistic view of human capacity. The color blindness ideal is premised on the notion that we as a society can never be trusted to see race and treat each other fairly or with genuine compassion. A commitment to color consciousness, on the other hand, places faith in our capacity as humans to show and care concern for others, even as we are fully cognizant of race and possible racial differences. It is said that in some ways we are like all others. In some ways we are like some others, and in some ways we are like no other. Although this aphorism seems so simple on its face, it holds the key to understanding how we can build the beloved community. It is not by proclaiming ourselves to be colorblind, but rather encouraging all to bring the diversity of their gifts and talents and cultural experiences and ethnic and racial heritages to the creation of the beloved community, to see and celebrate both the commonality of the human experience and its differences. All of us, every person sitting here today, are inheritors of a past that we had no hand in making. but it is for all of us to educate ourselves and to leave our comfort zones, to do the sometimes hard work of understanding ourselves first, so that we may then reach out to others. Seeing race is not the problem. Refusing to care for the people we see is the problem. We're called by the love that we're born with, not the fear and prejudices we may have learned, to undertake this spiritual journey of becoming whole again, and in turn recognizing the wholeness of all. As our call to worship this morning reminded us, love is a conversion to humanity, a willingness to participate with others in the healing of a broken world and broken lives. Love is the bedrock of our faith. This journey of life that we're on together is never easy, especially when we are dealing with issues such as the institutionalized racism that we are all bathed in and day out in our society. But it is imperative for us as people of faith to be engaged in this journey, always with our eyes on the prize, knowing that this is ultimately deeply spiritual work. It is imperative for us to move with open hearts and open souls, listening as well as speaking, seeking always to be gentle and loving with one another. It is imperative for us not to turn away from the institutional violence that is destroying communities and families of color. This is our issue, as much as it is an issue for communities predominantly of color, because it affects us all. It affects our souls, it affects our humanity, it affects our web. And it affects our understanding of ourselves as being grounded in love. As Alexander puts it, we should not hope for a colorblind society, but instead for a world in which we can see one another fully, learn from each other, and do what we can to respond to each other in love. And respond in love we do. Unitarian Universalists are known as the people who show up, and this is exactly as it should be. King has issued to us a challenge not to sleep through the revolution. He tells us still, hatred paralyzes life, love releases it. Hatred confuses life, love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates it. And I would add, indifference is as much an enemy in our time and place as direct hatred. King's dream calls us to build a society capable of seeing each of us as we are with love, the inherent worth and dignity of all. Let us rise to the dream in whatever ways we can and be those people that show up. The important question is not just what we believe, it's also where we stand and walk and speak. I choose and hope you choose with me to stand on the side of love. Amen, and blessed be.
So, as you've heard, last Wednesday, close to 20 of us Live Oakers gathered here in the sanctuary to talk about Black Lives Matter. We took a short trip together, listening to each other's stories, reviewing the action of immediate witness from the UU General Assembly, which called all UU congregations to support Black Lives Matter, and sharing our understanding of the issues involved. So why did we come? Was it the images of young Black men, women, and children who have died on the streets of America recently? Was it Ta-Nehisi Coates in his book Between the World and Me saying, "It is hard to face this, but all our phrasing, race relations, racial chasm, racial justice, racial profiling, white privilege, even white supremacy, serves to obscure that racism is a visceral experience, that it dislodges brains, blocks airways, rips muscles, extracts organs, cracks bones, breaks teeth. Was it the statistics that explain how the school-to-prison pipeline dumps 1 out of 3 black men into prison in their lifetime? Was it that personal, quiet moment when you saw a black person reacting to something and you wondered why? I believe it was all of those things and something else. I believe that the people who came here on Wednesday believe that they could do something positive and change racist attitudes, to lessen the violence that is perpetrated on black people, to make our country live up to its promise of equal rights and government of the people. As the song we just heard says, we hope for a brighter by and by, and I am grateful to belong to this congregation of people who care and who have such big hearts. James Baldwin, one of our great writers of the 20th century, talks about this responsibility in a public conversation he had with noted anthropologist Margaret Mead in 1970. He said, "What I'm trying to get at is the question of responsibility. I didn't drop a bomb that killed 4 black girls in Birmingham. I never lynched anybody, yet I am responsible, not for what has happened, but for what can happen. I am responsible for now. Look, you and I are both whatever we have become, and whatever happens to us doesn't matter now. But what should we do about the children? We are responsible. So far as we are responsible at all, our responsibility lies there, toward them. We have to assume that we are responsible for the future of this world. We have to assume that we are responsible for the future of this world. Our UU brothers and sisters felt that responsibility last June at General Assembly when they voted to pass the action of immediate witness that calls us to support Black Lives Matter. Kenny Wiley, a senior editor at UU World, clarifies that calling in this poem reflection entitled, Your Life Matters. Most of us Unitarian Universalists are here because we felt welcome here at last. Some of us were too agnostic somewhere else. Some of us weren't vindictive enough somewhere else. We were too working class somewhere else. We were too lesbian. We were too nerdy somewhere else. Too introverted. Too gay marriage somewhere else. Some of us are here because this faith and the people in it affirmed, you may not be perfect, but your life matters just the same. That's what's on the line right now. Through racism and posthumous victim blaming, through silence and bullets and indifference and vilification, Black people are being told that our lives do not matter, or that they matter only conditionally. Black lives matter if we are educated, if we are respectable, if. And sometimes, not even then, do our lives matter. Right now, we as Unitarian Universalists are being called to act. We are being called by our ancestors, those who demanded that we help end slavery, that we fight for suffrage, that we join the struggle to end Jim Crow, that we listen to and honor Black power. Lydia Marie Child and William Lord Garrison are calling us. Lucy Stone is calling us. Fannie Williams and Frances Ellen Harper are calling us. James Reeb is calling us. Viola Liozzo is calling us. Guided by that enduring, unfulfilled promise of the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, ours is a faith that has said, or worked to say, to those who have been marginalized, you are a woman and your life matters. You are gay or lesbian, and your life matters. You are transgender, and your life matters. You are bisexual, and your life matters. You have a disability, and your life matters. You were not loved as a child, and your life matters. You struggle with depression, and your life matters. Right now, we are being called by our ancestors, by our principals, by young Black activists across the country to promote and affirm you are young and Black, and your life matters. You stole something, and your life matters. I have been taught to fear you, and your life matters. The police are releasing your criminal record, and your life matters. They are calling you a thug, and your life matters. Our ancestors, principals, and fellow humans are calling us to promote, affirm with deeds and words, Black Lives Matter. Our Live Oak congregation often stands on the side of love. We do it when we feed people at Transition House, Head Start, the IV Warming Center, when we walk with the Islamic Society for the Not in Our Name Peace March, when we show up at a rally for $15 minimum wage, and the list goes on. That love is what I am counting on to hold us as we do this important work. Buddhist Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh says, understanding someone's suffering is the best gift you can give another person. Understanding is love's other name. If you don't understand, you can't love. And Dr. Cornel West expresses it this way: justice is what love looks like in public. And so, our journey to understand begins. We took our first steps last week with the Adult RE program. We have a lot to learn. Learn what is really happening, learn what Black people in our community consider their priorities, learn to honor the experience of Black folks that are so hard to hear without closing our hearts or withdrawing. Learn how to listen and learn how to do the support tasks and not lead the parade. To begin that learning, we are reading together Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. You may have heard of it, because this is the book that was chosen for the UUA Common Read this year and for UCSB and Santa Barbara Reads program. Author Brian Stevenson, a gifted lawyer and founder of Equal Justice Initiative, will be speaking at UCSB on Monday, April 18th, and I hope we have a good contingent of people from our congregation there. Several people at the Adult RE meeting expressed a need to get started on concrete actions. Our first step in that direction will be investigating what kind of prison ministry opportunities, which might include Black inmates, would be available for our participation. We also hope to have a video night soon. I hope you all will bring other ideas that inform us and increase our experiences with the Black community. May these activities allow us to open our minds and our hearts. May we understand the struggles and expand our compassion and love. May we help transform our community and thus our world into a just and loving place. May it be so.
Our faith. This congregation is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. Let us pause in silent witness to that unity. And may the blessings of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. And may love's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Blessed be. And now we extinguish the light of our communal chalice and now is when our service truly begins.